Welcome to Tuesday's Voices of the Alternative World. This is August 30th, 2016, and this is show number 489. And if you care to listen to any of the other past shows, the number is 641-715-3813, access code 883267#. And I am strongly encouraging everyone to listen to Misty's show last Thursday, which is number 487, and the Diamond show, which was last night, which is number 488. We have a new link with a person named Doran, who is strongly connected with the Source Network. And the Source Network is a real resource. They have a website now, and it's www.thesource.network, and it's a real connecting point for many, many light workers and groups. And they really have a lot going on, and we're affiliated with them now. And so this seems to be a time when a great expansion can take place. And this man is only 33 years old, and what he's talking about is like, an extension of what we were doing in the 60s, but really, really all-inclusive. We're not going to have our groups separate, or people saying, well, we're the only one, we're the most important ones, and you should follow us and nobody else. No, that's not happening now. This is we're all in this together.
All hands on.
Yeah, right. This is the unity. It takes an entire planet to pull this together, all the light workers all over the planet. And so I also want to give the Diamonds Forever. This is the blog spot that Elizabeth Diamond puts up and adds to it all the time. And it's Diamonds with an S Forever 31.blogspot.com, and there's all this latest information on there, and there's also link to YouTube channel on the right, all the most recent, plus the archives, so all the shows are on there. And coming up on Thursday, September 1st, is a solar eclipse, and the energies can be very powerful, and Cynthia talked about this last night, and she said that it's important that we do sacred ceremony. That's the North Node, place of North Node, so we can really focus our attention there on sacred ceremony and what we want to manifest. And it's at 9 degrees Virgo, and Saturn is square Neptune, so that's an interesting configuration that we can focus on and learn more about. Saturn being the grounded, down-to-earth boundaries type of planet, and Neptune is the spiritual, dreamlike, the artistic. It's like those two forces can seem to be in opposition, but they don't have to be. We can work on integrating them. So I encourage you all to continue to listen to all the Diamond shows that you can, or if you can't listen to them, you can listen to them later on YouTube or on the phone line. So we don't have a guest tonight. It is like a wild card show. It's the 5th Tuesday of the month. We usually have it planned out for 4 Tuesdays, but this is the 5th Tuesday, and Dale has something to discuss regarding an interesting meeting that he's been going to in Long Beach. So we will invoke the law of one now, and then we will carry on. And we we are all one. When one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, I ask that only that which is of the highest good of all happen here and now, and I give thanks that this be done. So be it, and so it is.
Amen.
Amen. Blessed be. All right. Well, you want to talk about your meeting, Dale?
Yeah. This is, I've always, at various times in my life, have been at a crossroads. What am I going to be when I grow up, and what am I going to do? And I've reinvented myself several times. So here I find myself with the question of what am I to do, and what can I do? And so, as all of us should look at our arm's length, what can we do immediately to affect a positive change within ourselves and our surroundings? So, after a lifetime, I've been a member of Long Beach community since 1980, and so the logical place is, well, let me work in Long Beach. And so the first thing that I discovered, because this is really a magnificent city, and I love it. I just love everything about it. I've worked here and lived here, and it just has a tremendous amount of resource and a tremendous amount of good. And one of the big things that really struck me back in the late 70s and 80s is when they invited the Cambodian community, and very much like what's happening in the Middle East with Syria and the refugees that are migrating away from the trauma of war. The Cambodians were a traumatized people, and at that time, Long Beach invited them into the community, and they actually have Cambodia Town and all the richness that culture brought here in Asian Pacific, from the Asian Pacific community, and all the wonderful kids that we went through our educational system are now doctors and engineers and computer scientists and it's just physicists and biologists and teachers and what have you, and how they've enriched our world. And and really, Long Beach is blessed. Well, there's so many areas in the world that are suffering. We've got Boeing partnering with Elon Musk, and he's developed a spacecraft that can return and be reused again. So he's all about sustainability and recycling, and he was the founder of one of the largest solar panel manufacturing companies in the world, and he also developed the electric vehicle. He's got a beautiful sports car. It is expensive, but he's developing cars that are designed for people with median incomes as time goes on. So Elon Musk is here, and he's partnered with Boeing, and they have they took 2 Titan submarine hulls and built a launch pad, and that launch pad goes out to the equator and launches the satellites that provide us with all these wonderful cellular satellites signals, so that I can sit here in Long Beach and have a conversation with you in Colorado, or in Sonny's case near Nevada City. And so we got international communication abilities through the technology, and this is where all the opportunity as well as the danger of making this transition in our civilization. There's tremendous dangers, but there's also tremendous opportunities. So in my quest to develop an alternative world, and specifically peaceful off-grid eco-villages, that are governed by consensus, I looked where I could do what I can to make. The goal is to make Long Beach a sustainable eco-village. And this is a free market system in Long Beach, and with over 400,000 people. So it's really a challenge. So I met, oddly enough, when I started to investigate, they actually call themselves Sustainable Long Beach. and I met with Larry Rich, which is the sustainability coordinator for the city of Long Beach, and I met with him for an hour yesterday, and it was really a profound experience. That how he gets it. It's not like I have to, start from. It was really an easy sell. I called him last week on the phone. I spoke for 5 minutes, and he scheduled an appointment yesterday for an hour. So now, what are we going to do in Long Beach to make this transition from a money system to a non-money system? And when the free market economy is going to experience 60% of the jobs that exist are no longer going to be here, and there's going to be a lot of people without any money who are afraid and angry because it didn't work out the way they thought it would, and that includes white-collar workers. So there's going to be a tremendous explosion of unemployed people that aren't paying taxes, and what that's going to do is cause a money strike, and the system's going to shut down. So I talked to Larry Rich is his name. He's the coordinator, and we started the conversation. I said, well, Larry, there's a lot of things that provoked this meeting, and among them was the tragedy down in Louisiana with the floods and the fires in California, where you had over nearly 150,000 people displaced in just with a wave of a wand. And when the media was down there, they were talking to people, and they said, there's no Democrats or Republicans or blacks or whites here. There's just people helping each other. So, how is this process of dispossession and ownership going to take place? And the cry between the people that were suffering in the community was, I had everything taken away from me. Well, we are entombed in supremacy in the system, entitlement and laws and Second Amendment rights and deadly force and with this tomb that we're living in, the reality is it doesn't belong to you. The human race has to have the elasticity of the starlings, where it's the random chaos of that flock of birds going in each individual bird going in a separate direction at the same time, but maintaining cohesion, that it stays together in spite of all the freedom within it. And we have to go from this tomb, and we have to take flight together so we can move around freely like the starlings as a group. And I'm trying to create a fixation, a physical model of how civilization has to be free and together all at the same time, and unanimity of thought. So I described the transition that we have to make as a human race, and then the question is, how do we make the first steps in Long Beach right now with the system we've got? And then I suggested earthquake preparedness. I said, what we have to do, we have to be prepared for everything to shut down. The problem with the Katrina is people sat on the bridge with their hands outstretched saying, well, somebody's coming to save us. And nobody came. They sat there for 3 days without any water. Well, if you understand the universe and you understand algorithms and fractals and random chaos, the elegant organization of random chaos, we aren't in tune with the universe around us. So I said, now, Larry, we can't tell people to do anything, but we can say, well, when this 8.0 earthquake comes, and it is coming, we don't know when. I said, the roads are going to be shut down, the communication is going to be shut down, we may or may not have cell phone communication, and we still have the problem of food, clothing, and shelter. And I said, let's just tackle one. focus on one thing that we have control over, that we can change, and we will be prepared for both the man-made disasters of technology that's coming. And when that pivot point is, when it reaches that pivot point, when they say, well, that the answer was, well, there was another article that said that the answer is just give everybody an income and send them a check. Well, the problem is when you go below the break-even point, there's nothing to buy because everything's shut down. That's a money strike. So it's an anemic delusion that they've got. In Germany they sent everybody money, but they ended up burning it to keep warm because there wasn't any firewood to buy around, and it was too expensive. Whatever firewood was around was too expensive. So that's what we're facing economically. So it's out of necessity, that we have to go through this change, and so we're going to use earthquake preparedness because this is something that's going to get the community connected. And I said, well, what's the one thing we should focus on? And I said, food. That's food and water is going to be the problem. So, and nobody's going to have any money, and we can't wait for the federal government to get here because we have to eat now. So the thing, if you have a place to live and your stomach's full, and you've got clothes, there's really no big deal. So here's my plan. We're going to meet with all the restaurants. We're gonna have a meeting. The Restaurant Owners Association in Long Beach. And what we're going to say we're going to have an earthquake preparedness day. And one day a month, all the restaurants are going to be open and the food's going to be served for free. And what we're going to do is organize the community to volunteer to help the restaurants out. And we're not going to tramp to the restaurants and make a mess, but what we're going to do is we're going to have food available to go, for those people that can come and deliver it. Then we're going to work out a program where we can get Meals on Wheels to make sure that those people that are don't have the ability to get to any place, even at a restaurant that's open, get them their food delivered to them for that day from the restaurants. And we're also going to, there's another component because we don't know where the damage is or which homes are going to be unlivable and so on and so forth. So what we want to do is have adoptive families, and we're not going to go outside of the communities, but all these communities have friends and neighbors, and so we have to adopt a family. So we'll find two families that want to adopt each other. If their home is uninhabitable, they can move in at the other home. And so the idea is once a month we're going to have this earthquake preparedness day, and we're also going to bring in the big grocery stores. And for that one day, the Ralph's and Vons and all these grocery stores and Whole Foods are going to donate the vegetables. It's all going to be vegan because the idea of we may not have any refrigeration, and there may be no gas, so we're going to have to those areas of the city that still have services restored. Those are the restaurants that are going to be open. The ones that may be ruined by the earthquake are going to be shut down. But if we can open all the restaurants we can in Long Beach and make those available to go in and get food, and have the grocery stores supply those restaurants that are in Long Beach that have the food, supply the vegetables to the restaurants, and there's some details to be worked out because they have to be given incentives to do that, and we understand that. But this is the basic. So the grocery stores are going to provide free vegetables to the restaurants. The restaurants are going to provide meals, on a 24-hour day basis, because we're going to assume the worst. We've had that 8.0. There is no government coming. We're going to sustain ourselves, and we're going to bring the community together because people are going to be thrown out in the street, but that's okay because there's going to be a neighbor that they've already allocated as their their co-family members, and that we can, and then that we're the medical facilities here, St. Mary's Hospital and Memorial. We're going to get them in the mix so that we can have triage. We'll get people trained in triage just to get keep them alive until they can get surgical procedures. And so we want to get the community cohesively involved, working together, not worrying about money, having food available and water, and having a place to stay in the midst of chaos. Now, what this is going to do is, and you know, the city is serious about earthquake preparedness because there are fault lines here in the Long Beach area that have really devastated this town on occasion, and so it's not like they have a sustainability department, and then the other component of this is to make the food chain completely off grid. All the people, all the stores that sell it, and all the restaurants that cook, that we should be developing a plan on a regular basis where we provide the restaurants with free vegetables and set up that supply chain already. So it's a step-by-step process, but by having monthly drills over time and then having a yearly festival at the end, we're going to have a condition where we can function at least once a month and once a year on a large scale without any concern for who owns what, but just citizens actively involved in helping one. And so when the tragedy does come, it'll be a simple matter of, let's go to a restaurant and get something to eat, and let's make sure that that family that if our house is okay, then let's make sure the family that we've adopted is okay, and that have them move in with us. And the other component, of course, is to get the all the solar panels installed at all the restaurants and all the food supplies. And then the long range plan is to follow the model of Monroe, Oregon, and have sharing gardens. So all of Long Beach eventually will have community gardens, and all of the vegetables will be free, and particularly to the restaurants. And then we'll subsidize. We'll figure out a way to cut get their solar panels up so they're totally off grid, at least the food chain, and that's a start. So anyway, I've got another meeting scheduled with Larry on the 12th, and I'm putting this program together. And then if it meets with his approval, then I'm going to go ahead and start putting the pieces together and contacting these individuals in the restaurants and the grocery stores and the supply chain as far as the transportation. So we've got this thing worked out before the catastrophic event takes place, whatever that may be.
That sounds like quite a vision. And is this Larry? Is he part of the council? He's
in the council. That's the sustainability coordinator. I met him at they're changing the landscaping to all drought-resistant plants, and they're very proactive in getting community gardens together. And we're just at we just got to do that earthquake preparedness so that everybody understands, it's in my enlightened self-interest to participate in this, because this is an event that could happen, that when other catastrophic events that we observe, that people really, really are suffering needlessly because they weren't prepared for an event in the first place.
Well, this is forcing, this is forcing people to come together and work together as a community rather than be separated by, me get what I can have for myself, and, or that just the money thing separating everybody. So that's a real, as long as this is a widespread thing that many people are interested in bringing about, then you've got to communicate with the restaurants and get them off of this thing where they've got to make money. and serving the people instead of just, serving for their own needs. It's hard to get, well, I won't say it's hard, but, getting people out of the consciousness, and trusting the consciousness is rising, and that people will begin to see how, we just can't continue to function as we've been, as we've been under the money system. That's really, that's just a controlling factor that the cabal has been using to control us. But yeah, it's a great vision, and as long as you've got enough people on board there that are really going to bring this about, and not just for the sake of preparing for an earthquake, but just be preparing for the whole change that's coming throughout the planet.
The sustainability
coming. Yeah.
The sustainability issue is this technology is coming, and this is going to happen, and it's going to be a reality. And what we want to do is keep the guns in the gun closet collecting dust, and put on our thinking caps. See, the problem, Sonny, is these people have been trained to and groomed and educated to be dependent, and you're used to having a piece of paper, and they put that demand down and say, "Give me that." And when that structure doesn't exist anymore, they lose the ability to think, and anger and hatred and violence create the evil, where the horrific events take place, like they did in Germany. And that's we have the ability to think right now and prepare for that eventuality. And this is a time when the sin of omission is, I say, well, I'm going to go to the ant farm in Missoula, Montana. I've got friends up there. I don't need to waste my time with this. I'll just watch the show on the TV. And I can very easily do that. It's much easier. But, okay, somebody has to come in, and the idea is to create a model, like Buckminster Fuller said, create a model that makes the old model obsolete. If we can demonstrate that this is definitely a superior way to think and live and be, and more secure and peaceful and more happy. People have fun.
Sure. Well, that's what we're talking about it all the time on the Diamond Network. We've got to be in a state of joy and happiness.
Yes.
A lot of us have been struggling a lot with various levels. That we're going through a transition, and life is not supposed to be about struggle and worry and lack and all those things. I have to tell myself that every day myself. But I'm grateful. I have been provided for here, and whatever means it comes through, ultimately it comes from the universe, the Creator. That if we're on the right track, then it, in some ways we're provided, but then we have to go through transitions and help bring everybody else. Put out the vision and unite with others that are holding the same vision. And the source people, they are really holding that vision, and they're in Southern California. The Doron, who was on the show, Diamond Show, last night, and also Misty really got him involved, and so she's very much, involved with this, and so they're really a uniting factor there. They have quite a vision, and they had a special celebration on Saturday. It was promoted. I guess they said not widely enough yet, but they're planning to have more of these celebrations, bring people together with conscious musicians and speakers. Some top New Age speakers were there. So I'm just adding that on, that this is something that could really help just promote this whole idea of everybody coming together, and working and playing in a joyful way to help us all with this transition into a new world. So yeah, it's all happening in one way or another. We just have to keep the faith and keep going and follow our light, the light that's there within us and within everybody else, and just inspiring us to keep on moving forward. So we're in quite a time now, quite a time. And it's inspiring to me because the first wave back in the 60s, a lot that was, in some ways there was a lot of chaos then because things were just breaking out of the old mold. First there was a lot of psychedelics used, which was kind of needed at the time just to open everybody up. But then there was a lot of fallout as well. And but it was all pushing evolution forward, and now we're in the second wave. We kind of went underground for a while, but we didn't stop. Those of us that carried the vision, we didn't stop. And now we're emerging again. This new ones, younger ones coming forward, like this Doran. He's only 33. And even younger than that. So we're just, the millennial generation is here, and of course, we all recognize that we're just all souls, and it doesn't matter what age we are. If we become conscious of who we are, then waking up to who we are, then we all have a part to play in all of this. Now, I have a new helper who's only 20 years old. She's a millennial. And I feel like everybody that I have some connection with is for a purpose. And, I'm not going to tell her, I'm not going to give her a lot of stuff right away to chew on, but, opening little by little, and I believe she is open. She is open, but I'm not going to unload on her everything that we're talking about, but she seems to be someone that can, that is open to some new ideas. So, anyway, just exciting time we're in. Regarding the music, anyway, we can talk about that some other time, but I would like to still play some little snippets of music, not long, not the whole track, but some things that might be relevant to what we're talking about here. Is anyone else join us that wants to have anything to say right now about what we've been discussing?
Okay, just press *6 and unmute, and then you can join the conversation.
Hi. Oh, hi.
Yeah, I've gotten very inspired lately by Doran Katouche. I don't even know how to say his name. Sorry, Doran, but he's my brother. And, I heard you talking about it, but what he brought forth Monday and last Thursday on Misty's show, and what he's bringing forth on Facebook, he's doing some short videos. I haven't listened to them all, but I will. But, okay, so I thought of Dale and what he's been saying and what your show is doing, endeavors to do, and Dale's vision is just to voice it and get it out there. So, instance, they're doing the gatherings all around, and he started just at a farmer's market and put up a freebie table right outside the farmer's market for several weeks, and he got to know the people, and he handed out freebies and talked about, and so then when the time came after he established relationship with love, right, in his neighborhood, then a block up was a park, and what he did is he brought that little table that people were familiar with up there, and somehow he told them to go to the park an hour right after the farmer's market that they have every week on Sunday, and he put signs up on a bench area for the drumming circle, and he put another sign in the park, because it's a public park, right? And he put different signs out so people could gather, and people will be inspired eventually to come and bring their drum to do the drum circle. And all of a sudden, there'll be all kinds of people there in the neighborhood. So he's doing what Dale's been saying, and we've been talking about, and he's doing the action of it. Isn't that cool? I just want to thank Dale. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking when Dale was talking. I was thinking, like, yeah, he's really doing it. And I know he's in Southern California, but is he close to? I mean where Doran is located. I wondered how close.
Ojai. I never heard of it. Ojai. You guys heard of it? Ojai?
Yes, I've heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of it.
It's a beautiful community, a little bit north of us.
So then later on, the people would start gathering, and it would just form like, walking by the spirit, I call it. It'll just be forming by accident. People will just be drawn there because word of mouth gets around fast, right? So every Sunday now, they know this festival is there, and, there's a guy that hears about it, and he's been yearning to play his a guitar and just get that thing in his heart. So he decides to go one day down there and start playing the music, and he ends up there every week, and they invite people, and people come, and then he says, and then you introduce like love money and give everybody the love money paper for coming to the event, and then they could spend it on whoever's at the fair, and just give or if you're inspired by that person, give them some love money. I mean, and that's how we get out of the money system. Isn't that brilliant? I mean, this is just a blueprint for all of us.
Yeah, it's the thing that I left Larry with both of us. I said, Larry, we got to figure out how to do this without money, because eventually we really aren't going to have any. It's going to be taken away from us. And he said, yeah. He said my budget's very small, and the strategy of nuance and subtlety. And I've mentioned Bill and Melinda Gates. You think here's a guy, he's got, he's worth about $60 billion, and he's going to go into Africa and he's going to cut the infant mortality rate in half. I'm not saying, well, gee, he's going to go in there, big guns, like a nuclear-powered battle group, and really, that's not the case at all. That's not it. What he did is, after he studied the problem, he did some very, very little things, tiny things, like mosquito nets, okay? For mosquito-borne diseases. That made a significant difference, And then what he did is the antiviral drugs, HIV, was ravaging the poor, impoverished communities in Africa. And so he got little Honda 50 trail bikes, and they trained the nurses to put the antiviral drugs in little igloo coolers, and go out to these remote villages and inoculate the babies so that they wouldn't get AIDS. And then the problem, the real simple problem, making sure that you're not contaminating your drinking water with bacteria, cholera and E. coli and all the, typhus and all these diseases that were killing these infants, and so clean water, mosquito nets, antiviral drugs. Not big things; they're little things, but they have a tremendously huge impact. And then, teaching people how to hygiene. Just washing their hands and keeping themselves clean, and handling their wastewater properly. And the other thing was malnutrition. And if you look on YouTube, it's really funny, because here's Bill Gates, this big nerd with the tremendous brain, has got all this knowledge of technology, and he's talking about chickens. And he's excited about chickens because when they introduce the chicken into these communities, and they create these micro businesses, all of a sudden they've got eggs to eat, and all of a sudden they've got chickens to sell. And even though it isn't vegan, at this level, when people are starving, and we're talking about cutting infant mortality rates in half, we're talking 15 million infants are dying from malnutrition and disease every year. You've got to start someplace. And so these little families raise chickens, and they have meat and eggs to eat, and the fertilizer from the chickens fertilize the soil and make the soil rich, so that it'll produce, they provide the fertilizer, and they have a few extra chickens that they can sell and make a little bit of money to buy some of the things they need. These are hugely impactful things that are are on a micro scale, but they've actually, I believe right now the infant mortality rate, and I might be corrected, I got to look if I'm wrong, forgive me, but I think they've achieved their goal, that 5-year goal they had, but they still want to get rid of, they don't want any infants to die in mortality. And I think Bill is a very practical person, and I think the reason why he's doing this is because most of the people that have made Microsoft what it is are people from poor countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh and India, and so he puts the value on the human being over and above everything else.
Well, do you really? Okay. I wonder how, so this was, when did he do all this, about 5 years ago?
Yeah, their first goal as a foundation, the family had taken a trip to Africa to go on a safari. So their thing, they were going to do the African thing, go on the safari, go on the balloon ride, watch the wildebeest, look at the giraffes and the elephants and the lions, and take the bus ride. And so in the process of them taking this vacation, the first thing that Melinda noticed was the women would put these jugs on their head, and some of them would walk as miles and miles and miles to a place where they get fresh water, and then have to go miles and miles and miles in their bare feet. And then she investigated a little further and found out how horrific life was for those people, and they're struggling to survive, and the children dying in infancy. And, the logical thing is...
Yeah, how things are now after that. Are they a lot more better off than they were?
Well, if you I'm saying there was 15 million a year, 15 million infants a year that were dying, and now I think that, if I'm not mistaken, it's down to 7.
No, 7 million.
The impact that they've had, along with the Clinton Foundation. I mean, there's a global effort here.
Yeah, there's a lot being said about the Clinton Foundation these days. I'm skeptical about these people and what their true motives are.
Because that's what the bad guys done. They put in confusion whether are they good or are they bad, and they put in bad intel to paint people. So I'm not going to worry about that anyway. And I want to bring in one more thing. Children are coming out, you guys. Children. A 13-year-old was interviewed for 24 minutes today, and he's read all of Tesla's books and other things. He's invented free energy, he says, and he was interviewed in front of the United Nations by some little man, 13 years old. And then a 9-year-old explained the fourth dimension. Oh, my God, what's up with the children, right, guys?
Well, those are evolved souls that are coming in, and they're still wide open. I mean, that's really wonderful to hear that. I couldn't watch the video because I'm on dial-up, but I saw the headlines and all, and that was really fun.
And Dale, when you said they gave them chickens and eggs, and you want to eat healthy, but yes, for starving children, you got to start somewhere. Chicken is what they probably be dreams of, and then incorporate it as they grow and get love done, and that's the same thing would turn into the town gatherings. Businesses would see that it's a good thing. People love it. They're at the park all day long, and this gathering, and they start, begging, and it's just like a domino effect.
Yeah, and Peter, the pastor, Hartson, the pastor, we're really, really, really heavy in deconstruction of this system and using all of its ability and resources to make the transition. That so that we don't have these horrific events, man-made events that really just put civilization backwards. So we have an opportunity here to really, our goal, I should say, Larry and my goal, we want to turn this into a sustainable, self-sufficient eco-village that the rest of the world can follow. That to say, look at, not having money is not the end of the world. It's just a beginning of thinking differently. That's all.
Well, people have to come together and really be a community and care about each other without money. And money kind of is a barrier kind of thing where people can just say, okay, I have so much money, so I give you money, but you keep people.
Yeah, well, this is why sharing gardens was such a profound thing to me. And I just talked to Allie up at Malia Center, and his whole plan is to have his restaurant serving food, not charging anybody, and just putting a cup out there and say, well, if you can donate, it's great, but you come in and eat if you're hungry. And
that's the One World Family Commune. We were doing that. We were starting to do that back in the late 60s and 70s, and amongst us, we didn't. We just shared everything. And we were right there in Berkeley. Like I say, we got to start in baby steps. And right now in Long Beach, we're at the chicken point. We got chickens, so we're gonna get to pure vegan, but it's just we have to take a few baby steps. Well, it's good that they also provide the fertilizer. It's like that cycle, that circle of life, and if they're eating the eggs, they know that they're healthy. They aren't mass produced. It's like getting out of that battery cage mass production kind of thing, and people having their own little flock, and they know what they're feeding them, and so it's like a cycle of life there, and then they're pooping and they're fertilizing their gardens and all that stuff.
Yeah, everybody falls in love with the chickens and can't eat them anymore.
Chickens are fun. Yeah.
Here's the thing, the spiritual picture of what you guys are talking about. As we go about with our feet on the ground and do the actions of what all we just talked about, we are disseminating the separation energy, the energy lines of county, state, block, neighbors. You see what I'm saying? Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Those barriers, that tomb that we're in, we're going to break out of, and we're just going to, but not. It's not going to be. It's like Grace Wade Boggs in Detroit. She was an old warrior and a war horse in the civil rights movement. And initially, when she started out, when she was young, she was very militant. But as she graduated and she got older, she went from revolution to evolution. And she was actually a big part of the garden movement in Detroit when things collapsed and got ugly. The community said, "Well, we got to feed ourselves, even though we don't have any money." And then their community garden movement got big. So. It's just a process that we have to go through, and then we don't have to be like Germany and lose the ability to think and react emotionally. We just got to have faith and courage and do what's intelligent, and reasonable.
Well, the basic needs have to be taken care of, and if everybody can agree on that, that you don't have to. You can just take the money factor out of it, and people that can have land and that can grow organic foods and sustain the community, and then can have, little, even these mini houses or, in any way that we can set up housing.
Yeah, well, that was another thing I didn't mention was Weaver's process in Taos, where he actually got the building department to approve alternative building techniques, so you can build homes out of. He's called the garbage warrior, but you actually build the homes out of recycled waste, and he got the building department to approve those building methods, and so we're gonna bring that into Long Beach. So when people don't have the money to build a house, they can build a house out of recycled materials, and they're free and affordable and readily available, and they meet the building codes requirements, and that's going to be huge in California because they got really, really strict provisions. So we're and then I thought about finding these land within the Long Beach community where artists can actually design and build these small earth ships for habitation, for the homeless.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of that going on in different communities.
Yeah.
Mini houses and then creative housing as well. Domes and other kind of artistic designs, like the village that you talked about. One community or something like that. I know they have quite a few. They have housing like that. That's really creative. I've seen pictures of it anyway. But yeah, and that contributes to consciousness to live in structures like that, and just people coming together and pooling their abilities.
Yeah, the beautiful thing, if we Belden's idea about dome building is great because we've got to find structures that can withstand tornadic winds. We're talking about 200 miles an hour plus, as well as survive an earthquake table. These structural engineers have built these platforms, and they build structures on them, and then subject them to the moments of inertia that are equivalent to a 8.0. They can just dial in any level of earthquake they want. And what we want is structures that are small and affordable, but can withstand the forces of nature. So we're not in danger of being blown away or crushed by substandard building methods.
Well, if they're in harmony with the sacred geometry of the earth, I'm no expert on building and that sort of thing, but it seems likely if they are in harmony with the structures of nature, that they would be much more apt to survive rather than these boxes that can be blown away easily. Like curves, roundness, that kind of thing.
First, there is a school of thought in physics where at some point in time they're going to be able to control the pressure differentials in the atmosphere, and for the foreseeable future, the earthquake issue is just simple, planet physics. That as the Earth cools and the crusts shrink, there's going to be these movements. And what we should do is not build with the idea of permanence, but have surplus. Just like the nature builds extra trees, be able to when something is destroyed, that we have other structures that we can move into that are. We provide for that random chaos, that nature and the universe that is a part of the nature and universe. And that's where the starlings come into play. We don't have the elasticity as a civilization to move, freely. We're just not. We're entombed in this rule of law. And so we're going to have to construct our freedom, and just like this system was constructed, we have to construct the alternative world before we can move into it.
Yeah, well, indigenous villages had if something happened, a disaster, some kind of flood, or they would just up and move somewhere else. Their structures weren't so. They didn't have money anyway. They say, well, my house cost $100,000 something or other. No, they just up and moved and relocated. And it was
that's
easier than
we get this mentality. We'll be building cities that are not even occupying them, but just building them in the event that something happens or somebody needs a place to stay or somebody wants to visit. We should have abundance and overabundance. Nature doesn't just build one tree and then wait till it's full of nests and then build another one. it's continually growing, and we've got to emulate that abundance, untrammeled production. And then all of a sudden you've got a world that it's got 20 million people on it, and it still can handle more because it's being managed properly.
Right, being managed and living according to nature's laws, so to speak, in harmony, and not exploiting nature. But
so then that element that is natural. When you're like the Oahu says, when people become, at the time that you're 15 and mature, the easiest thing in the world should be finding your mate and raising a family. That's, that should be any concern. And that, people come out of school with their educations and they look at each other and say, I don't want any children. They cost too much money. They think their quality of life is determined by their income and how big their house is, and it's just the values are totally distorted. It's contrary to everything.
Well, it takes a village, like they say, to raise a child, or to have the entire community would be helpful to all the children, but we still wouldn't be overdoing it necessarily, like having 10 kids each, per family. But
I think it's when I think there's enough abundance to handle whatever happens naturally, and don't put any restriction on it. It's just like the bees, when there's too many bees, they go build another hive. And every square inch of this earth should be cultivated and made beautiful. I think of the gardens in Japan, how beautiful they are, and that's what we should be doing. We should make a more beautiful human being and get us the talents developed and develop the earth. And we need, if we're going to talk about every square inch of the planet to be cultivated and designed and an artful, beautiful with symmetry and functional, and then you start. We don't have enough people to do all that. So it's like the old farming communities, Sonny. That you got married. You had my grandmother had 9 kids, and every one of them was a winner. And I don't want to put any restrictions on the natural.
We're not going to. But we'll be in the consciousness where we can. I don't like to use the word control, but we, we're conscious about our mating. It's not just. What's right for one person or one family may not be right for somebody else, but we just know that intuitively. We'd know what was right, and would be able to
the freedom
carry that out.
And freedom means that it's perfectly normal not to have any children. If somebody says, I don't want to be married, and I'm happy being celibate. That's fine. It's the direct inspiration on the individual, and everything is accepted. It's unconditional love.
And what's being taught, like what Cynthia's been talking about conscious sexuality and moving the energies. It's like people will learn how to not always conceive children when they have sex, and and use the energy in another way.
Well,
tantra,
My feeling is that the most important thing, most important thing is the individual. That's where the ideas come from. That's where the imagination comes from, and nobody can determine, who is going to have that idea or who has that particular genius.
We all have different purposes, but our purposes can work together and blend together.
I want anybody that wants to have any number of children There's going to be a mean average, and I think the natural pyramid, the base of the pyramid keeps expanding. There's like a harmonic curve to population growth, and nature is going to find its own balance. Mm-hmm. And the big thing, the big frustration, that divides people now, economic status, class. Many times I've seen where two people really, really care about each other, but because once somebody's on the wrong side of the tracks, that natural bond is broken. And I think there's a natural attraction to another person that this system destroys, and that's where the harmony and compatibility, and that's why there's a 50% divorce rate. I think that those matches that are made in heaven are going to be the norm, and that foundation for a family is, and a civilization. Every scientist will tell you that the basic foundation structure of any civilization is that nuclear family, that the father, the mother, and the child, and
expanding that to community where, like in the old days, the family was, the families lived together, and still some tribes and cultures still do this.
Yeah,
the parents and their grandparents, they're all there together. And
if you look at small communities, the small agrarian communities who were small in size, everybody knew each other, everybody was part of everything, and they all worked together as a cohesive whole, and the families were strong, and the community was strong. Even if you go to Iowa today, or in some of these farming country, you still have those small communities. If there's a problem, they have a town hall meeting, and they resolve it. And there are some towns that they can't remember when the person was last killed in it. It isn't all mayhem, murder and mayhem, like the news, all the news reports on is all that everybody was killed. They don't report on the 250 million that had a great day and were peaceful.
Oh,
that is
right.
News.
They don't report the good news.
Trump and these politicians, they get on this rampage like, gee, there's chaos everywhere. Well, I can take you to 1,000 cities right now, and they don't even know where the policeman is. I think Joe's down fishing. They said, well, if you need him, give him a call. That's
that makes me think of Andy Griffith.
Yeah, exactly. The vast majority of America is far more Mayberry than it is Gotham City. So
yeah, it's still human nature all this time, but people are more community-oriented and friendly to each other, and there's still bad things happen, but it was just the more support. Yeah,
it was startling. It was really startling to me, these disasters in Louisiana and San Bernardino. And when they just looked at each other, and there was a black guy, and there was Latinos and white people, and they everything had been torn away from them, and all of a sudden they got down to the root thing and say, gee, all we really have, is God, family, and friends. And the final analysis, there's nothing else. So we just got to get down to that core, that core place where, where nothing else, ownership of land, use of money, all of this stuff is meaningless. What we have is we love ourselves and our family, our God and friends, and if by the stretch of the imagination there is an enemy, we have to love him or her and make a friend of him, reconcile and restore the relationship with each other, because we all need everybody. There's no human being on earth that isn't a vital part of this life cycle and process, and we're all important, and our thoughts are important, and our opinions, and how we feel, and then that's the justice. When we all get concerned about each other, that's when we'll all be taken care of, you know.
Well, that's right on, you know, and the people that are off balance, or there's something wrong, or they just can't, you know, they've got violent tendencies or things of that nature. I mean, there has to be a much better way of, you know, we say no more hatred or condemnation, but of somehow a loving way to deal with mental, you know, illness and behavior. You know,
I think the WASPy makes it simple, Sonny. It's just the wise help the unwise, and the strong help the weak. If you have the capacity to help somebody, you just do it. That's your part. And
if they can receive the help, you know, and if they are unable to receive the help, then we just send them from a distance. We just send them our love, you know, do the best we can to
the people that can't make that, you know, and I really believe it is, you know, everybody feels comfortable in their own place. Well, people that are inclined to be selfish and individual, it'll be hard for them unless they change their thinking. And certainly we're going to do everything we can. It's going to be very difficult for those people to embrace the community. And they're deeply programmed, and they have emotional wounds, you know, and, you know, it's a lot of healing is needed, and it is taking place, you know, but it's these things are run very deep in the planetary consciousness. But it seems like more and more, you know, more and more are waking up these days, and so it's like the 100th monkey, just. And you know, it goes back to building that model. You know, a lot of people don't have the perception or intuition to see it without it being there. So once we create these models that really, you know, make this thing look like an old Model T that's fallen apart. You know, that's the idea in Long Beach. Create a model, create a different way of thinking, a different way of living. Like, you know, nobody argues that the smartphone is 100,000 times better. The smart cell phone is 100,000 times better than a dial telephone. You don't have any argument. That thing is a dinosaur. It's, you know, that was a thing of the past. Well, by creating these models that really function and show the people the real nature of who and what people are, then that has more impact on, you know, getting these communities up and functioning and thriving and wholesome and happy, and that's what's going to persuade the rest of these people to change their ways, because they say, yeah, I'll put my own personal feelings aside to be part of that. You know, gosh, it's so much better. So we've got to, you know, it's all about Buckminster Fuller's creating a better model. You know, that's the job. We got to put it in practice and make it physical, so that people can touch it and feel it and taste it and they say, yeah, that's what I want. You know, and so that's the challenge. We're in that process of building those models, and you know, a great thing is. What's happening up in Molina with Ali up there in that garden. He's building Wallapini Gardens, and so that sustainability up there in that cold climate is happening, and he's growing vegetables through the winter. He's successful at it, and he's producing tomatoes when it's, you know, 10 below zero outside. So that was my original goal up there was to you know, build these gardens that should be able to grow food in any climate, so everybody can eat fresh vegetables every day. That's a huge step. So I mean, it's you know, it's just, and that's a model. You know, what are we going to do in a cold climate? I gotta kill a cow and, you know, put it in the freezer, or else I'll starve to death. Well, that's nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, cultures like the Eskimos, they seem like they
Allie told me that when I talked to him today, he says, Dale, you were the one that sent me the literature and the plans for the Wallapini Garden, and Allie, I haven't been up there for a couple of years, and he built them, and he proved it to himself. So, and he's a graduate of culinary arts, and so the restaurant is already built. It's in the building, and he's going to take the vegetables out of the garden. He's going to set up a vegan cooking class with the Job Corps, and it's fantastic. These ideas work, and I'm happy because they're not my ideas. I don't
universal ideas coming.
I don't have any and this the Creator gives me an idea. It belongs to everybody. I don't have any desire.
Our brains are receiving sets and transmitting sets, but we're receiving information from the Creator, from the source that's universal. It's something that works throughout the universe, and we're just getting back on track by opening ourselves up to receiving this universal knowledge. And I see how it's been over the years. Different people, different groups have these visions, this vision that is a true vision. If it's all united as one, nobody's saying we're better than, that does happen, and it did happen. People, we go through this egoic stage of evolution, thinking that we're the only ones or we're the best ones and all, but, this group may have a special purpose, a special something, a piece of the puzzle, but other groups may have another special piece of the puzzle. So we have to be open to that kind of united effort, and like cells in our bodies, or in a plant, or just all the parts working together. It's getting to be time to close.
Yes, ma'am. The listening audience, please press *6 and feel free to jump in and say your piece. That's comments or opinions or any questions, anything.
Any last words, Elizabeth? Are you still with us? Nancy or Patty? Anybody is still with us? I would like to play part of a song by Merle. I won't play the whole thing because of the problems with the, with the sound quality, but this is called The Source. It kind of fits in with our new source connections here. Not that they're new, but I just would like to play this. Hold on a second. And then we'll say goodnight to everyone, and thank you all for joining us. And anyone else, any people that hear this show later, yes, give us your input, and we will carry on.
Absolutely. Enjoy the music, everyone. Good night, everybody.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Sunbirds crawl through the sky. We watch the dove winging by. We saw an angel kiss the sky. When you and I begin to fly. It's my way. It's my way. And you have where the magic mountains grow.
I hope that was clear enough so you get an idea of more of Merle's music, and I'll say good night once again.
It was. I enjoyed the music. It's a good thing. We should open and close with a piece of music of some sort.
Yes, I'd like to do that. I know that was the idea before.
It was beautiful.
Continue. Good. So it was enough. It was clear enough so you could really. Good.
Yeah.
It was a very smooth song. It didn't have a lot of harsh tonal qualities, so it's still playing in the background here.
Yes, beautiful melody.
Oh yeah, this was from the Maui album, and it was recorded in 1976.
Wow.
This album has been re-released, and it's still getting a lot of attention around the world. It's been
beautiful music. Well, everyone, it's the close of the program. We enjoyed having you aboard, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
Are you looking for healing or a change in your life to help you enjoy it more fully? You might benefit from a galactic energy reading and clearing from Chris Jacobs. Chris will work with you on a soul level to clear unseen negative influences, implants, programs, contracts, and energetic blocks. Chris Jacobs is a gifted energy healer. Contact him today at ChristopherStephenJacobs@gmail.com.